Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Joey Corman as we get ready for a New Year's Eve spectacular four-game main slate here on December 31st. That is going off at 7 o'clock. There are two 3 o'clock games and a 5 o'clock game. We will let the DFS strategy show handle those. You, of course, can tune into that 9:30 on Tuesday morning. That will be Adam Scherer and Josh Engelman. Josh back off of his sick bed, so it's good to see him back during the holiday. Joey, we had a week off, or a week for us, a break on the Monday podcast or the Monday night recording session with the holiday last week. But how are you doing? Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, had a great holiday. Full slate of NBA action on Christmas Day, and can't complain about it. How was your holiday, Mac?
Oh, it was pretty good. We did a little sightseeing. Went down into Washington D.C. to National Stadium. They had a light show and Christmas market called Enchant. It was kind of fun. They had a huge Christmas maze that you could walk through, and they had the whole stadium lit up. And then in the on the infield and outfield portion, they had it all covered with. It was interesting. It was not like a basketball floor, but it was kind of a little bit springy. It was interesting what they had, but in any event, obviously to not damage the field. But they had a whole maze set up, Christmas lights, ice skating, and then you would wander around the maze, which was kind of fun. And then you tried to find all 9 of Santa's reindeer, which was good. And we couldn't find the last one, hence it was a maze. And if you didn't take one of the proper turns, you just kept walking in a circle. And finally, we figured that out and it was Cupid that we were not able to find until
well,
the
for
very end.
FanDuel last year, you could have just dropped one.
Yes, very good. Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, see what I did there? Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of FanDuel, hey, they dropped draft. So that today was the last day you could play on PlayDraft or draft.com. No more drafting. So sad to see that. We've got some NFL playoff content coming up. We are going to have you covered wall to wall there. We have a couple shows will happen on Saturday or Friday. We're still debating that one, but there will at least be one on Saturday live before lock. There will be a live before lock on Sunday. On Friday, we will probably get On the Contrary and one other show, and I suspect they'll put in a DFS strategy show probably on Thursday. For that, we, of course, will have our usual articles, both in front of and behind the paywall, projections, player grades, etc., etc. So we've got you covered here. This is always a fun two days of football because we have 4 highlighted games, and generally the slates run a 4-gamer, a 3-gamer, and then a 2-gamer on Sunday, and sometimes they'll do a 2-gamer on Saturday. It looks like FanDuel is just saying, yeah, we're not going to do crossover days. So hat to them for, you know what, FanDuel, why don't you guys just do first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter games, and we'll just be done with it, and you can rank the hell out of everything. I like more choices because that's more ways to get right, and it is more ways for our opponents to make mistakes, and that gets harder and harder with all of the good information here. So, Joey, let's talk about these games here. We'll go game by game since there are just 4 of them that we're going to be focusing on. And of course, we'll talk about our featured sponsor for this. That would be the Yahoo Fantasy Sports. They have a $50,000 NBA baller. Very impressive. $15 entry fee that starts at 7 o'clock for their main one. They are also running a $150,000 baller for this weekend for NFL. That is $10 entry fee, and then it's $150 max entry, and it's already filling. It's 10% full already, so good on them for doing that. Just a 12% management fee. If you've got guys have not yet signed up for Yahoo, you can do so. The bottom section of any of the Cash Game Building Blocks article, as well as the Yahoo specific NFL Baller article that will be out on Friday morning. You can look at the bottom section there, use that promo code link, and get on in there for a bonus of up to $30 in YSRPs. That's Yahoo Sports Rewards points, available for immediate use into any contest. All right, I'm turning this one over to you. Setting you up. We've got Cleveland at Toronto. No line yet on this game. We have Kevin Love, who's probable. He was out the last game. It was back to back, but he had played in 10 games in a row. We know that Pascal Siakam is still out with Mark Gasol and Norman Powell. But this is kind of an interesting one. So the Fred VanVleet contest will be in play. We'll talk about that in a minute. But take it from the top here. We have Cleveland now without one Jordan Clarkson, who was traded to Utah. In return, they have Dante Exum. But they're looking to showcase a few other players here. Some guys may be getting minutes. What do you like here from Cleveland?
Yeah, so Kevin Love will be back. He was just announced probable for tomorrow. So he is my go-to on Cleveland if I'm looking for anybody. Dante Exum came over in the Jordan Clarkson trade, and he has predictably done basically nothing in his time. So how long did it seem like Dante Exum was in Utah for?
Like 5 years.
5 years, yeah. And I forgot every single year. I forget Dante Exum played for Utah.
I have no idea how many years it was.
Yeah, it was probably 5 or 6 at least.
I'm looking it up now, but it was. Oh yeah, it was. So 2014, he played in all 82 games. His rookie year, started half of them. 2017, he was there for 66 games, started 26. Then 2017, he only managed to play in 14. Last year, he played in half the games, or just over half, 42, started 1. Talk about a downward trajectory there.
Yeah, he just never really turned out. And finally, I think Utah did a great job getting Clarkson over there, especially with Conley hurt. And so, yeah, we'll see if, they try to incorporate Exum a little more, but I wouldn't look for anyone on Cleveland besides Kevin Love. Interestingly enough, that Cleveland's players, I took a look with and without Love, they don't tend to trend up at all with Love out of the lineup, except for like John Henson when he gets a little bit more playing time. But Larry Nance per minute production goes down. Cedi
Osman.
Cedi Osman. His production goes up by a bit, but Thompson's production actually goes down. So with Love in the lineup, he would be my go-to on Cleveland. And on Toronto, these prices on DraftKings are finally starting to catch up with VanVleet at 8,400. We got Ibaka at 7,300. Kyle Lowry at 8,800. Now, he has averaged 46 points per game over the last six games since Siakam, Powell, and Gasol have been out. So that's a nice 5 times ratio if you are taking averages there. Obviously, Pat McCaw, the 3-time NBA champion himself, went off somehow. I'm not really sure. 42 points a couple games ago. He played 37 minutes against OKC, and he had 23 points. He's also just completely done nothing. He's played 33 minutes in a game against Boston and had 7.25 points. So if you want to ride the Pat McCaw roller coaster, go ahead. I would not be banking on 42 again right there, especially with this price over 4,000 now. Other than that, on Toronto and this game in general, won't be looking at it very much unless there's some last-minute injuries. Emac, is there anything that sticks out to you in this one?
No, but I think for starters here, we'll be looking at some of the value plays coming in on this one. Will probably have to come from this side. Oops, I hit my filters wrong. So for placeholder value, and that's what I like to call it, it is been a crazy year thus far with the NBA. We've been getting, not all, but so many of the stars have been injured. That has led for a whole new wave of people coming in. And then recently we've got a bunch of guys that got knocked out by injury as well. So that, plus the very inevitable people getting sick or just kind of, not feeling like playing during the holidays. At least that's what it seems like on the outside. So we'll probably get some other ones. But I do want to mention Colin Sexton at 58. That's a little pricey there on DraftKings, but he's 51 on FanDuel and 20 on Yahoo. Shooting guard eligible on Yahoo, point guard on FanDuel, and then both on DraftKings. He'll probably play 30, 32 minutes. He'll be in the mix there for 25 to 30 fantasy points. Kevin Porter, be a little bit interesting. He's going to pick up some minutes now with Jordan Clarkson out. He's sort of one of the guys that they're going to want to develop here. He'll probably be somewhere around between 25 and 27 minutes. He's 4,200 on DK, 41 on FanDuel, and an even 10 at the minimum there on Yahoo. So he would be someone else I'd be willing to just put into my lineup. You'll get him at small forward across the sites. He has additional shooting guard eligibility there on DraftKings, but he's someone that I think is going to be getting extra looks. Not the easiest of matchups against Toronto, but they are still having a decent defensive season, even with their stalwarts gone. They haven't dropped yet that much. But we'll have to see what happens. Their guys are carrying a heavy minutes load between Ibaka, Fred VanVleet, Lowry, etc. So that's going to cause some I think some additional wear and tear. The one guy that they're not playing right now, and I have no idea why, Eddie. We talked about this when I was on the show with him on Sunday. We mentioned that it seems like they hate Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. He said there just is no earthly reason why he is not getting more minutes in this situation where everybody is out. So let me see. I wanted to call up his minutes just for example here. Oh, go ahead.
3 minutes last game for Rondae Hollis-Jefferson.
Yeah, how with a team that's decimated, how does that happen? Now, he did have 3 personal fouls in those 3 minutes. The game before, he played 19 and he had 6 personal fouls, but that's really not been an issue for him. So those were against Boston and OKC. But and also against Boston, he played 18 minutes, had 1 foul. Played against Indiana, 38 minutes, 3 fouls. 28 against Dallas, 4 fouls. So he's going against, Porzingis, the same Boston guys that got him in foul trouble in one game, did not at all in the other. And then the front court there for Indiana. So it's just been really weird what's been going on with him, because he's someone that we've kind of liked for a long time, back to his Brooklyn days, as and Lofty in particular liked him for the longest time, just because here's a guy that funny enough throughout his DFS career has been has had eligibility from shooting guard all the way down to center, just depending on his various roles. But it's disappointing that he's not there. So that is a big question mark, or I guess wild card would be the better way of saying it, as we head into wild card weekend here for the NFL. You've got Darius Garland and Cedi Osman to kind of round things out. Those guys are all going to get 20-25 minutes. What they do with them is anybody's guess, but in the meantime, we can at least plug them in for some value plays. You hit on Toronto well enough there, so let's look at our next game here. This will be the only game that we do actually have a projected total for. It's gold, which is hilarious. It's Golden State and San Antonio. I say it's hilarious. Hit him with the injury news.
Yeah, so D'Angelo Russell is sick. Willie Cauley-Stein is also sick. So I guess maybe Willie Cauley caught it from D'Angelo. Willie Cauley gave it to D'Angelo. I don't know. But both of them are going to be out. Kevon Looney is out. Paschal is now probable. I mean, it's an infirmary here at Golden State. Kai Bowman is questionable. Amari Spellman is probable. So you're looking a lot at Damian Lee is going to have a heavy load to carry now. He's been playing phenomenal, averaging 34 points as a starter this season. His price is up there now, DraftKings 62. He's higher than Draymond Green on DraftKings, 6,200, and Draymond 6,100. Whoever we would ever see that. And we have Marcus Chris projected to start. So Marcus Chris he's going to be popular. When he has gotten more than 14 minutes in a game this season, he has averaged about 23 DraftKings points. So at 4,100, and that's only 14 minutes. So at 4,100, that's going to be really good value as long as he is. I mean, with Paschal and active and Spellman active, there are no guarantees for minutes. But with Cauley-Stein out, I don't see who else they're playing in the front court there. So expect Chris to get some heavy minutes. Jacob Evans is projected to start, maybe ahead of Burks. Burks earlier when D'Angelo Russell was out, averaged 33 points per game. So he is definitely worth a look, regardless of whether he's coming off the bench or starting. Nothing else really stands out. I would target Burks here, and I would target Chris and potentially Damian Lee, but I would have to see how much salary I have left. Damian Lee could be a guy that a lot of people are playing and expecting higher production when he's already reached his ceiling. Could you see that potentially happening with Damian Lee?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that he is a two-way contract guy, and he has just actually been overperforming everything that he's doing. The price has been up there. We just haven't seen a bad game from him, which absolutely can happen. He's been doing a very good job rebounding, and that's kind of been cushioning his floor. He's also been doing an adequate job of scoring, but we'll see what happens when they lose, a couple of their more productive guys here. Golden State had won 4 of their last 5, so they were at least being a competent team. They knocked off, of course, Houston on Christmas there, but they won in Minnesota and they beat Charlotte and. Am I looking at the right? I'm sorry, I was back on Cleveland there. Let me get over here to Golden State. My bad.
The Phoenix.
Yes. They have won, yes, 4 of their last 5. Sorry. They won against New Orleans, against Minnesota. Then on Christmas, they knocked off Houston, and then they beat Phoenix. So that was all 4 at home. They dropped their last one by 20 to Dallas. No surprise there. But they'd been playing pretty solid. D'Angelo Russell was leading them in scoring 5 of their last 6 games. You've seen Lee. This is the interesting one. He actually led them in rebounding their last 3 games, and that Houston game, he led them in scoring. So, he's someone that we're not getting a discount on anymore, even on DraftKings at 20. He's, on Yahoo at 20. I think he's going to be very important play. You've got Alec Burks over there at 21. Both those guys come in at shooting guard, but of course we get the extra guard spot and the utility spot, so we've got some flexibility. I would like those guys as a building block. Marquise Chris, you mentioned him, kind of an interesting story. One and done there at the University of Washington, came out when he was 19 years old. This is his fourth year in the league, but he started when he was 19. He's 22 now. He's always had an issue with fouls, so looking at his per 36 numbers is probably the easiest way to gauge what he has been doing. So his first couple years, it was 5.4, 4.8, 5.8 was last year. That was a big problem. So he's basically trending to foul out while he was splitting time with Cleveland and Houston. Then this year with Golden State, he's down to 4 per 36. So perhaps they're on his ass a little bit more to not foul out. Perhaps he's letting Draymond Green get the stupid fouls. Who knows? But he's someone that, while there is risk, I'm feeling a little more comfortable with him being pressed into duty here. So that's one where we just wanted to check biases at the door. We're looking at 8 teams in our player pool here, so he's one of them. I'm probably going to be willing to roll the dice with, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens with Draymond Green. That guy's kind of been all over the place. It seems like if it's an important game or one that catches his fancy, he plays more minutes. He has that leeway with the coach. If it's kind of a meh game, it almost feels like Golden State's tanking this year, but not. I don't even think you can say that because they've just been so decimated by injuries. But in their last few games, Draymond 27, 32, 34, 33, 31, 29, 26. Those were his minutes. That's a guy we're used to seeing around 35 minutes per game. Especially when they're on their winning championship basketball. That's what we're not seeing here. So you want to keep that in mind as well. So even though it feels like a steal of a price for him, he has not been getting the minutes to back things up. Now, decent matchup for him. They're going to need him to help guard against the Marcus Aldridge and such. So this could be one where we'll see. Maybe we get more minutes out of him. On the other side of the ball here, a lot of Marcus Aldridge. Marcus Aldridge is coming up in my early reviews here of what I've been looking at. He is at 7,600 on DraftKings, so that's a solid price. You've got DeMar DeRozan at 71. You've got DeJounte Murray at 59. We've seen the 4 guards do pretty well. Let me rephrase that. On a per minute basis, we've seen the 4 guards do well for San Antonio. The problem, Joey, they all cut into each other's minutes. We see Greg Popovich going with the hot hand or who is playing better defense sort of as he sees fit. So there's not been much consistency there regarding who's starting, who's coming off the bench, who's closing, etc. What do you like here from the Spurs? Anything jumping out beyond the kind of the obvious LaMarcus and DeMar?
Nothing in particular besides LaMarcus and DeMar. LaMarcus has been he had a tough game against. I remember last game they played Golden State. He was really heavily owned. And he was cheap. He was 7,100 on DraftKings. He only played 26 minutes. I believe it was a Spurs blowout, and he only got 33 and a half points last game against the Warriors. So that was a huge disappointment. His numbers against the Warriors. Last year he played 2 games against the Warriors and had 50-point games in both of them. So he is definitely someone who's worth a look if you're expecting a bounce back performance from that first game against Golden State. Expect minutes much higher than 26. I guess there's a question now with D'Angelo Russell being out that can Golden State keep it close? But San Antonio has been a team that has really played down to their competition all year, and they're not the Spurs that are just gonna trample Golden State even without D'Angelo Russell. They still have some capable players in Golden State. This isn't quite the G League team that we saw when D'Angelo was out, and there were a couple of other guys who are all out. Other than that, it's tough to see anything that really stands out for San Antonio. DeRozan and LaMarcus, obviously. Murray, I feel like Murray hasn't had a big game since like week 1 of the season. It's been a long time. Maybe Derek White. Derek White at 4,100. He's averaging, when he gets minutes, at least 20 minutes, he's going to average about 21 points per game. So he could be some good value at 4,100. He has gotten big minutes off the bench before, so there is some potential for him to put up a mid-20s, lower 30s type of game. They don't like to push DeJounte Murray that much. So Derek White has some upside, and he's pretty consistent with 21 points per game coming off the bench this year. So I would look for Derek White if you want value, LaMarcus if you're going for the stud, and then DeRozan depending on what salary you got left on San Antonio.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is San Antonio has actually tightened things up somewhat over in December, which is 16 games for them. They are 11-5. They are playing at a bottom 10 pace, but they also have a top 8 defense. Now, that top 8 defense is allowing 106 points per 100 possessions, but it is still ahead of many of the also-rans. And when you consider almost half the league is allowing 110 points or more per 100 possessions, it actually doesn't look as bad in context. So Popovich trying to get it done once more. Moving on to game number 3 of our 4 games here. We've got Denver at Houston. Of course, we had Russell Westbrook out the last game. That was a planned absence. He is going to play. On Tuesday, we've got James Harden, who missed the game against New Orleans with a sore right toe or a turf toe. He is questionable. Would not surprise me if he doesn't play this one. I hope we get more than just game time decision, but on Sunday he was a game time decision. So fortunately they were the 8 o'clock games, so as long as you were not playing on FanDuel, you had the ability to get out of that one. And then Clint Capella, still questionable with the heel. So we'll have to see if we get any more news heading into tomorrow's shoot-around, and then if we get any word leading into the game there. But I'm going to just kind of assume for the moment, for this exercise, that they're out. We saw a couple decent performances. Daniel House has been okay. You get some moments there from PJ Tucker. You've got a couple other of their understudies coming into prominence here, starting with the home team here. Assuming that Harden and Capella are out, Russell Westbrook becomes the slam dunk play. But what do you like amongst the return of Eric Gordon, Ben McLemore, Austin Rivers, etc. here?
Yeah, with Westbrook coming back, and I'm also going to assume Harden and Capella are out, because if Harden and Capella play, there's really no point analyzing anyone else on the Rockets because their prices are now all elevated. So there's no way you're playing anybody else if Harden and Capella play besides the big 3 for Houston. It's tough to say what it's tough to. I mean, with Westbrook back, it's going to be hard. Obviously, you're playing Westbrook, but it's hard to see how that affects everyone else. I don't think you're playing Austin Rivers at 4,500 on DraftKings. I don't think you're playing Isaiah Hardenstein at 5,400. I know he went off for 39 points, but this is not New Orleans is not Denver. Denver's much tougher down low. I I don't see. I could see Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon, I could see as the number 2 scorer on the team. He should. He only played 22 minutes, and he ended up getting 28 fantasy points in the New Orleans game. So if he gets cut him loose a little bit, they should. He's going to see his minutes increase. Closer to 30. If they cut him loose, get him up in the upper 20s this game, you should be able to get another mid 20s, lower 30 point performance that it could be really good on a 4-game slate. That's just not a ton of options. So I would look for Gordon, Westbrook, PJ Tucker. He couldn't even do anything when everyone was out, right? He had nothing last game. He had 18 and a half points in 33 minutes. So I don't see how you're playing PJ Tucker. It seems like he sometimes is. He's the type of guy who seems like he always seems to like step up when no one has him, and it's against the better teams in the league. Like he would always play well against Golden State. So maybe Denver. Maybe he's one of those guys that just he's coming off a game where he did nothing, and now he plays Denver and he plays up to the competition. He's that scrappy PJ Tucker who Houston needs to win basketball games. So contrarian play. Macklemore, I think he's hit his ceiling. He's only really played well without Westbrook, and he really didn't do too much off the bench. He hasn't done much off the bench this year at all. So Westbrook is really the only guy I could see myself taking, and also Eric Gordon.
All right, yeah, Gordon's kind of interesting. He had missed 22 games, had arthroscopic surgery on his right knee back on November 13th. As you mentioned, he did play 22 minutes. Probably expect him, maybe that creeps up to 25 or so in this one, but he is probably the only understudy that I'm kind of interested in. Looking on the other side here, it gets a little more fun. You've got Will Barton at 6,400 on DraftKings. You've got Jeremy Grant at 46. We know that, let me think here. I think Millsap is out.
Millsap's out.
Yep, so Millsap is out, so that bodes well, though, for Jeremy Grant. Little tick up in price, but the minutes will still be there. That does help Mason Plumlee, who should not be exclusively backing up Jokic anymore. He's actually started alongside him in 1 or 2 games when Millsap has been out. I don't think they'll do that against Houston with the way Houston's front court is, but I do think that Plumlee is somebody we can look at here. We're probably going to be going to Denver for some of our options. What pops for you so far?
Jokic. So he really burned me. He burned me on the last slate. 33 points against Sacramento. But his numbers this year without Millsap in the lineup, averaging 54.8 points per game over 4 games without Millsap, even with that 33. So he's really improved his play when Millsap's, Jeremy Grant is not as much of a low post guy. He's stepping out for the threes a lot now. He's actually become a pretty good 3-point shooter, Jeremy Grant. I don't think people realize that. But Jokic will be a lock and load for me. Gary Harris is probable, so you probably won't see Michael Porter Jr. in the starting lineup again at 4,500 on DraftKings. He will not be on my radar if he's not in the starting lineup. Gary Harris has very little upside, and he'll probably go out for 30 because I just said that. Nothing else on Houston stands out a ton to me. Nothing else besides Jokic. I would really only look at the roster of Jokic in the Houston-Denver game.
All right, let's hit the final game of the night here. We have Danilo Gallinari, questionable. He's missed a couple games with an ankle issue. Dennis Schroeder was out the last game. He also has an ankle issue. Both these guys, I think it's their right ankles. You've got Tim Hardaway Jr., who's questionable with the hamstring. And then you've got Luka Doncic, who has bruised back and a wrist sprain. I suspect we will see him play here. But that is what we're looking at. Go ahead and talk to us here. What do you think of Luka? Kristaps Porzingis is a bit of a reach anytime that Luka's here until his price gets back down just a little bit because Luka just takes away his rebounding, scoring, and shooting opportunities here. But he's at 7. So price not quite there for me on Kristaps. 78 on DraftKings, 84 on FanDuel, 38 on Yahoo. We just have 8 teams in the player pool, so we can't cross everybody off. But he's one that doesn't do quite as well going against or playing when Luke is there. What are you liking here?
If Luke is there, I agree on Kristaps. He's off the radar. I'm looking more towards the OKC side. So since Gallinari's been out, you've seen, in particular, seen Steven Adams' touches really increase. He's someone I've been rostering a lot while Gallinari has been out. He had a bad game against Toronto last game. He had 29 minutes. We've talked about Toronto. They're real tough on defense. But before that, he was 42 points, 33.5 points, and 51 points. So I don't think it's a coincidence that his touches have gone up since Gallinari has been injured. So he is someone I will look to roster as long as Gallinari remains out. Schroeder, I think Schroeder could be a really, really good contrarian play if he ends up playing. I think people might have him off the radar because they're afraid he's playing hurt. They don't want to play him. But what I've learned about Dennis Schroeder is that the only time he goes off is when people are asking, how the hell did you pick Dennis Schroeder? So that's my rule of Schroeder. And if Gallinari's out again and Schroeder does play, I will be looking to him too. Obviously, over on FanDuel, it might be tough with their game time decisions because it's the late game, the 7 p.m. Eastern lock. So I would look for Schroeder, Shea and Chris Paul have also really stepped up their game. If Gallinari is out again, and especially if Schroeder's out, this game in Golden State would be the 2 teams I'd be heavily targeting, and then locking in my studs, my Westbrooks, my Jokic. So that would be my strategy going in.
All right, a couple of the value guys, Hardaway Jr. and DeLon Wright, especially DeLon. If Hardaway ends up being out, I suspect Hardaway will play. It seems just more like a maintenance thing, but they're both favorably priced as some discount placeholders here. Dorian Finney-Smith, DFS himself, never really excited by him. He just has less than stellar fantasy point per minute. Kind of career average is about 0.6, 0.65. It's not great. Dwight Powell was popular on Sunday, but received a price hike. He's up to 57 on DK, 5,000 on FanDuel, 12 on Yahoo. Definitely can consider him there because he will be tasked with going against Steven Adams. As you mentioned, on the other side, Steven Adams is probably the guy that stands out. 6,600 on DK, 62 on FanDuel, and 28 on Yahoo, but this is a good matchup for him. The other guy I like, Nerlens Noel. Hey, remember, he used to play for Dallas. It's a remember me game, but Noel coming in at 43 on DK, 5 on FanDuel, and 10 on Yahoo. Now, he's going to cost you your center spot on Yahoo and DraftKings, but on FanDuel, he is a power forward. Keep in mind that he and Steven Adams have not yet shared the court together, so you even on a 2-game slate, you might want to be careful that you don't have them in the same lineup. I'm not as ardent towards that rule as I am not a 2-game slate, a 4-game slate. I'm not as enforcing that rule as much as I would on a 6 or an 8-gamer, but keep an eye. Just you can, if you're building by hand, I probably wouldn't do it because you can catch it. You may end up there. I wouldn't hate it, but I'd try to look for alternatives. If you're using an optimizer or mass multi-entry, you may want to set the rule. What I would probably do first is not have that rule and just see how many could they come up together with. You'll just have to use your judgment there because we don't always have a lot of options. On the late slate or that 2-game one in the evening, I would have 0 issues having them together. We just don't have that many options, but just know that they haven't shared the court yet. Doesn't mean we won't see it at some point, but we now have 30 games into the season where it hasn't happened, and this is no surprise. We've seen this for a long time. Indiana did that with Turner and Sabonis. They both start next to each other now, but they've changed their game and they've developed. We saw Ed Davis and Jared Allen and who's the guy, DeAndre Jordan this year. So it's not uncommon that centers that have duplicative skills aren't on the court at the same time. We have seen Howard and JaVale once or twice together. That was when there was a lot of injuries, but those guys usually don't share the court either. So this is not uncommon, but you want to know which centers do that, because there are so many nominal centers in the game today that this is just not a gimme anymore. Like we mentioned, PJ Tucker, hell, he's going to see some time at center on almost every game he plays when Capella's not out there. So you just want to know who's who. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Let me call up some Yahoo pricing here for our 4-game.
One more thing about.
Go right ahead.
I didn't hit on Doncic at all.
Oh, sure.
That if Harden does play with that price on DraftKings at 10,500, he's going to be extremely popular. So Doncic could be a great, I guess, if you want to call Doncic a contrarian play, but he could be a great contrarian play in terms of everyone's going for Harden. And you can, sneak in, a 75-pointer from Doncic as long as he plays against OKC. So maybe correlate Doncic with a couple of OKC guys and see if that game, heads to overtime, it's a close game, high scoring, something. So that's a potential strategy if you're looking to diversify a little bit.
All right, let's see if I can make this sort work. There we go. Okay, so a couple of the $10 ballers that we have down here. Marquise Chris, yes, if he is going to be starting, he is decent enough to take.
Let's go.
Pardon?
Marcus Chris night. All right.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Former University of Washington, one and done, my alma mater. Woohoo! You got Jeremy Grant. He's definitely a great play at 10 with Millsap out. If Kai Bowman, we get the word that he's going to play a somewhat prominent role there off the bench at $10. He is a fine option. Mentioned Dwight Powell at 12. I would rather play Powell at 12 than Nerlens Noel at 10. But you can still look to Noel at 10. You've got Derek White at 11, Darius Garland at 11, and DeLon Wright at 11. Amongst those guys, for me, it would be DeLon Wright number 1, Derek White number 2, and then Darius Garland. And then you mentioned Pat McCaw. Your mileage may vary, but he is $12, and stranger things have happened. But with that, we are going to get on out of here. I keep forgetting to have everybody have you tell everybody what your Twitter handle is. I know it's Leave It to Divock, but you better let them know as well.
Leave It to Divock. That is LEAVEIT with number 2 Divock like Vlade. And if you don't know how to spell Vlade Divock, then I don't want you following me.
That's a fair requirement. A fair requirement. You can find
Vlade Divock.
Yep, you can find me at EMACDFS, and then it is Osmo_COM. I believe we may have a couple more of the 8 Crazy Nights promotions. Do you know which one is coming up next?
Yeah, our last one is tomorrow. So we gave away a NBA yearly pass today. I'm not sure who the top scorer is. I know we still got the Portland game to go. It might be Jordan McRae. If anyone guessed Jordan McRae, they might be winning an NBA yearly pass, because I didn't see too many Jordan McRae guesses on our Twitter it was an Instagram giveaway today. But tomorrow will be 10 monthly Awesemo Plus passes, all access. So I'm expecting a ton of engagement for the 4-game NBA slate, and should be great. So and Happy New Year to everybody.
Absolutely, you've got to embrace this. Remember, tomorrow night is the night to be safe and sane. Do not be dumb and dangerous. Fortunately, with the advent of Uber, it is a lot easier to get a ride home than it was when you were waiting on taxi cab companies that were completely overwhelmed. Get off my lawn, as I say, but do be careful. Have fun with friends and family, and we'd like to see you into the new year. Oh, wait. Lofty told me I had to say this. See you next decade.
Oh, wow.
Good luck, gamers.